Hey folks, this is Vince with Ads Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to take a quick look at the card game Orbital. It doesn't say it on the box, but this is for 2 to 4 players for ages 12 and up, and the average play time is about 30 to 60 minutes. It does contain the actual components on the box, but one thing I would like to see is what I just stated. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, average playtime 30 to 60 minutes. That's usually standard with any game that you get. You know, it has those kind of stats on it, so you know who the game is for. But anyway, that's just one thing I just wanted to quickly mention to you. This is a pretty interesting card game that I just got, and put it through its paces. I found it to be pretty fun. The game contains, and I'll just read it off to you because it's on the box, 66 orb cards, 40 orbital cards. They're all part of this deck here, which I'll show you in a minute. I took out some samples. 2 reference cards, which are over here, and then a rule book. So let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. Here's the rule book. It's pretty small, but it's to be expected. It fits inside the box as well. It's a pretty big box. The rules are very easy to learn for those of you that are curious. It's a very easy to play card game. I took some samples out of the deck so you can see what they're all about. There's these orbital cards here, which have a point value on them. There's either 5, 10, 15, or 20. And these are the cards that players are going to try and play in order to earn points. But in order to play them, they need the orbs of a particular color. So this one needs a green, blue, and that orange orb in order to be played. You've got yellow, green, blue, and red one on this one to earn 10 points. Basically, the more points it is, the more orbs you need in order to complete it. This 15.1 requires 15 orbs, and then, or 5 orbs, not 15, 5 orbs, and then this card here requires 6 orbs. It's for a full 20 points, and it requires 1 of each color. Now, what are these orbs that I'm talking about? Well, that's where these come in. You've got like green, you've got orange, you've got blue. There's more cards in the deck, more colors, and you can actually see that here. This is on the back of one of the reference cards. Each orb, there's yellow, green, purple, orange, blue, and red. Each one has a special ability. So they can either be played to complete these orbital cards, or they can be played for a particular ability, like yellow, draw 2 cards. Purple, swap 1 of your face-up orbs with an opponent's. Blue, discard a card from your hand to replicate the effect of another orb you have face up. So yeah, I'm not going to read them all off to you, but just you get the idea. Orbs can be used to make these orbital cards, or they can be used for a special ability. Now I'm not going to bother shuffling these back in because there's so many here, and this is just for example purposes anyway. You saw the box already, I'm going to put that aside. Here's a reference card. On the other side of the reference card, it gives you a brief overview of what your turn, what you can do on your turn. So in the beginning of the game, you're going to shuffle all the cards together, besides the reference cards, that is, and then you're going to deal each player 4 cards. So I went ahead and did that for these 2 players here. And this is what this player ended up with, red, orange, yellow. And you'll notice he has an orbital card in his hand already. So he's got the red that he needs, but he doesn't have, he has the orange as well, but he doesn't have the blue. Instead he has the yellow. So he's close to completing this one already. This player over here ended up with 3 red, and an orbital of 10 points. So he's got 1 of the 4 colors needed in order to complete this one. So let's go over what a typical turn might play like. And again, I'm just going to give you an overview here. This is not, verbatim off of the rule book. There's going to be some rules that I might skip. But anyway, on your turn, you're going to draw 2 cards from the main deck or from your Orbital Reserve deck. Now, that'll come into play later. I'll explain what the Orbital Reserve deck and the discard pile is. There's two different piles that you're going to have, maintaining throughout the game. But I'm just going to go ahead and draw 2 cards for right now. So let's say it's this person's turn. He got a 10-point orbital card and an orange. Okay, so that was part 1. Part 2: play up to 2 orbs from your hand face up on the table. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and choose 2 orbs to play. Now I'm going to go ahead and separate these out. So what's he going to want to play? In order to actually complete these orbital cards, you have to play these cards in front of you. Like, you just can't take them from your hand and then complete the orbital. You actually have to have the colors in front of you. And that actually sort of puts them at risk because, again, there are some abilities in the rules that allow the other players to possibly steal your orbs. But we're going to go ahead and hope that the other player's not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and put down, say, an orange, and we're going to put down a red. Okay, because again, we've got an orange and a red here. No blue yet, but we're hoping to get that. So that completes that part of the turn. Oh, wrong thing. Let's just put that aside. Okay, step 3. Activate as many orbs as you desire, discarding an orb from play in order to use its effect. Now, whenever you discard orbs for its special ability, they go into a face down discard or face up discard pile rather, and they are not used for the rest of the game. However, at the end of the game, if players end up in a tie, whoever has the most cards in their discard pile will win. So whenever you use a card for its ability, it goes into a face up discard pile, but that's it. It is not cycled back into play at some point in time. There is a reserve deck, which we'll get to in a minute. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's say that we don't want to play any abilities right now. We'll move on to step 4. Play one orbital card from your hand. Set aside any orbs you use to play the orbital face down in your reserve deck. So this is a separate deck, a face down reserve deck. You'll be able to draw from this deck during the draw 2 cards phase at some point. Once you start getting a reserve deck going, you can draw 2 cards from the main deck or from your Orbital Reserve deck. So I could take 1 card from here and 1 card from my Orbital Reserve. You get the idea. But as you can see, I don't have the cards necessary in order to complete these right now, so I can't do that either. So that would basically end my turn, and now the other player would get to go. He draws 2 cards. He doesn't have any cards in his Orbital Reserve, so he has to take from the deck here. He's going to go ahead and take a look at it, play up the 2 orbs. He's got a bunch of red now. Holy cow. He's going to go ahead and play 2 red. 1, 2. And again, they normally wouldn't be next to each other like this, but this is for example purposes. You guys can actually see what's going on. And the next step is activate as many orbs as you desire. Well, he sees that he has a lot of red, so you may want to activate one of those red ones just to see what he can do with it. Discard a card from your hand in order to negate an opponent's orb when activated. Okay, so he may not want to do this right now. He's not going to discard this at the moment. So, yeah, let's just... I guess that'll be it. So he can't play 1 orbital. He doesn't have the orbitals necessary in order to actually complete one. So that would end his turn as well. And this is going to keep going back and forth. And I'm going to just take some cards out for example purposes. I'm going to try and find colors to, possibly complete these orbitals here. I'm looking for a blue one. There we go. There's a blue one there. Let's say that at one point in the game, this player put a blue one out. Okay. So let's just say that we have this now for this player. Okay, so again, draw 2 cards from the main deck or the Orbital Reserve. Play up the two orbs from their hand. Let's say they did that already. Activate as many orbs as you desire. Let's say he's not going to do that. And then play 1 orbital. Well, he has this one here. So he's going to put this into a score pile. It goes off to the side. Okay, and again, this score pile will accumulate. And he's going to take all of the cards that he used in order to complete that orbital, again, into a face-down reserve deck. So in the future, he'll be able to draw from this and draw from this, no problem. So it gives him a little bit more options that way. And there's also some special rules when drawing from the deck. The reference card doesn't actually mention it. But if you take a look here, let's see if I can find it. Orbital Reserve. This face-down pile of cards is for your use only, and you may draw from it instead of the main deck, which we already know. When you're drawing from the reserve deck, you may look at the cards and select the 2 that you want. So whenever you're drawing from the main deck, you have no idea what you're getting, but when you start drawing from your reserve deck, you can actually pick and choose what colors to get. So the more of these orbital cards that you complete, the more cards that you'll be able to draw from and choose from in your Orbital Reserve throughout the game. So the game might start off slow while you're waiting for the appropriate cards to play these orbitals, but over time, once you get 3 or 4 orbitals in your score pile, you'll have a nice little reserve here, and then you'll be able to draw from that and take the colors that you want. So it's a little bit more strategic toward the middle and the end game. So the end of the game will happen, I believe it's 100 points, but I just want to fact check that. Again, I don't have a photographic memory. Yeah, player ends with their turn. When a player ends their turn with 100 orbital points, that'll signal an end game condition, or the last card in the last card is drawn from the main deck. So when this deck runs out, or when someone reaches 100 points, that'll signal the end game condition. Everyone gets one final turn, based on whoever starts first, and then whoever's turn it is at that point in time. You want to make sure that everyone gets one last turn, or an equal number of turns, and then that'll signal the end of the game. Whoever has the most of these orbital points in their score pile will win. Again, if there's a tie, you'll take a look at your discard pile. Again, the discard pile is formed when you start using these abilities. Let's say this player here used the red during the game, and it's now in their discard pile. Let's say that they ended in a tie, okay, and this probably wouldn't happen. Only 1 card here and 0 cards over here. But this player would win in the event of a tie because he has more cards in his discard pile than the other player. So again, that was just a brief overview of Orbital that was not meant to be any sort of in-depth tutorial, but this should hopefully give you the idea as to what you're getting into. Again, besides the complaint that there's no player count on the box, no age limit, average play time, that kind of thing. This is a really cool game. I mean, the abilities that you can play during the game really change things. And the fact, like I said, as you start adding more cards to your reserve deck, you can actually start strategizing, what colors do I want? Do I want this blue one in order to complete the orbital in my hand? Or do I want this blue one because there's a special ability that I could use, from it in order to mess up my opponent in some way, or possibly, benefit me in some way. So yeah, again, there's different strategies that you can employ throughout the game, but in the beginning it's more luck based, because remember, in the beginning of the game you're not going to have a reserve deck and you're going to be drawing from this deck, so you're at the mercy of this deck. But again, as you start putting more orbitals down, you'll have more and more choices as the game goes on, and that's where the strategy actually starts coming into play. I do like the fact that the different colors have different abilities. It made me really go, should I play this for the orbital or should I play this for its ability? I was constantly doing that, in my play test. So really cool game. That was Orbital. The cost of this game, I believe, is around the $20 mark on the Game Crafter. Don't quote me on that, because again, my memory is not what it used to be, but I'm pretty sure it's around the $20 mark. And most card games that I see out on the market are between 15 and 20 bucks. So I think it's priced well. It's very casual, very family friendly, but at the same time, it does get a little strategic toward the end. A little strategic, not enough to scare off people, but it does get a little bit strategic as your reserve pile starts to grow and you start thinking about what cards you're going to want from that deck in order to advance your game so that you can actually start winning. So yeah, I really enjoy this one. Definitely check this one out. That's Orbital. I'll have a link in the below description to my written review, and my written review even contains a link to the store page of the game itself. So if you want to buy it, follow that link and you'll be good to go. So there you go. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my official website, www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.